I think a lot of us focus on the gear when it comes to camping and less on the experiences when it comes to camping. That's one thing that I've noticed in general for all kinds of camping, whether it be tent camping or camping in your SUV or in an RV or truck, van, whatever. There's a lot of emphasis on gear. And I've kind of gotten away from that over the years because, frankly, the adventures are just more interesting to me. I'd rather make a video about an adventure that I go on than this piece of gear that I'm reviewing. But that isn't to say that gear can't make your life easier and more enjoyable, more pleasant, more comfortable when you're out on the road. And the first thing that comes to mind is a fridge. Having a fridge is a big step up, a big quality of life improvement from a cooler. You know, coolers are fine, they're usable, they're workable, they get the job done, but it's really nice to not have to deal with soggy food, or not have to deal with going to get ice, or not have to deal with a big cooler that's mostly taken up with ice. And so a fridge is a big upgrade I think that people can make. Another one for me that I've found is a backup camera. One thing that I've found it very useful for is that, so I go exploring pretty narrow, pretty rough dirt roads in the mountains or in the desert. And sometimes I get to a spot that's just too rough for my car. Right now I have the RAV4 with me here. It's too rough for the RAV4 to handle. And so I need to go back. A lot of times there's not enough room to turn around, you know? And so I have to literally just drive backwards for however many feet or yards, or I don't think I've backed up for miles at a time, but sometimes it can take several minutes of driving backward to get back to a spot where I can turn around. And having a backup camera is hugely helpful for doing that. It's also helpful if you need to turn around on a slightly wider road, but it's still not like a big road. You can't just normally turn around. You need to do like a 30-point turn to turn around. Having a backup camera lets you see the edge of the road and see the drop-off or the rocks or the bushes or whatever, the trees, whatever's there, so you can keep making that 30-point turn and eventually go back the way you came. And then of course when you are pulling into a campsite, you can use the backup camera to make sure you're not hitting the tree behind you here. Like, let me show you the campsite that I'm at right now. I'm actually not camping at this campsite tonight. I've pulled in here just to record this video. But if I were to spend the night here, if I were camping here, I would pull in backwards to this spot. I like being able to point the nose of my car toward the main road so I can just drive out quickly if I need to. And you can see how at this campsite there are lots of trees around that I need to be monitoring, like these trees over here. The backup camera can tell me how close I am to those. There's this big boulder right here I need to keep an eye on. There's this fire ring that the previous occupants have thrown a bunch of trash into that I will carry out when I leave here. But you want to make sure that when you're backing up, you're not about to hit the fire ring. So it's just a useful thing to have. And it was especially useful when I had my last car, my Yukon, my 2001 GMC Yukon. That was a big car, that was a big SUV, one of the larger SUVs I think that's out there. Now, I think that if you have a newer car, I think from 2018 onward, every car is required in the US to have a backup camera. I don't know if that's true, I think I read that online, so let me know if that's true or not. It's gonna be another decade for me until I buy a 2018 or newer car. And so I'm still stuck firmly in pre-mandated backup camera territory with my vehicles here. And so like I said, the Yukon was a big car. I liked driving it, but it was big. And so I wanted to get a backup camera for it. And so I went online, I did some research, I went onto Amazon and tried to find the easiest one for me to install. Now you can get backup cameras with little monitors that you can put on your dashboard for starting at around $45 or $50 on Amazon. But for that kind of backup camera, you have to splice those wires into the wires that go to the backup lights in your car. So you have to remove the lights or get into the paneling there, into the trim, and access the wires, and you have to wire in the backup camera. That's doable. I mean, there are lots of videos about that. There's probably a video showing how to do that for your specific car. I didn't want to do that. That's not something that I am interested in. And so I found this type of backup camera that is a truly wireless backup camera. A lot of backup cameras will say that they're wireless because they'll they'll wirelessly transmit the signal from the camera to the little monitor, but you still have to plug in and power the camera. But there are some that are powered either by solar or by batteries that you can just basically attach to your license plate and then plug in the monitor at your dashboard and you're good to go. And that's what I was interested in, that's what I found. And so that's what I ultimately went with for my camera here. This thing has a solar panel. This is the AutoVox TW1, that stands for Truly Wireless 1 backup camera. I did the research on Amazon, I figured out which one I wanted to buy. I was about to buy it, and then I thought, you know what? Let me see if that company, if AutoVox has emailed me before about wanting to like sponsor a video or send me gear for a video before. Because I get multiple emails a day from companies wanting to send me stuff. The vast majority of them I just ignore. But so I went back through, I searched my email. Sure enough, they had offered me something else. I don't remember what product. It wasn't this, but I emailed them and I said, hey, I want this. Are you willing to send that to me? And they said yes. And so I've had this on a couple of my cars, first the Yukon and now the RAV4 for the last 8 months or so. I've been testing it for a long time and overall it works really well. So here's what we're dealing with here. This is the camera. This attaches to your license plate with these holes. It just screws right into this. And then this is the monitor, so you can see what's on the camera. And then there is this solar panel here. And as you can tell, these are muddy. I've been using these for a long time. I put probably 5,000 or 6,000 miles on these cameras. And I say these cameras because I have 2 of them. There's one on the back, and I'm going to be putting this one on the front. But I took it off to show you guys what we have here. The camera itself with the monitor costs between $150 and $190 on Amazon, depending on what the price happens to be that day and whether it's on sale or not. The solar panel is an extra accessory that costs about $25, $26. And again, it's separate. If you don't go with the solar panel, you can just charge this. The camera itself has a battery built in here and it charges via USB and it'll last a couple of months. So let's get this front one installed here, and please ignore the hundreds of little bugs that I've murdered with the car here. So I'm just going to take off the license plate. Overall installation takes, we're talking 5 minutes. Very easy, anyone can do this. So you take the camera here, put it behind the license plate, line up the holes here. Okay, we'll put this guy in, and then you just screw it on once you've got them in the right place. Now, one thing about this is that it's not like discreet. It's not like small and compact. It looks like you've got a camera on the front of your car or the back of your car, as the case may be. That could be a good thing for you or a bad thing. Doesn't really bother me. I don't care if my car has a little bit of a Mad Max feel to it. The camera part right here, this is adjustable. You can point it up a little bit or straight out or down a little bit. I usually have it pointed down a little bit. And with these solar panels, I haven't had to charge this thing manually with a battery bank, for example, via USB. Never had to do it. The solar panels keep it charged well enough. Now, I park outside, I don't have a garage, so I guess your mileage may vary there. And so here we are in the cockpit inside the car here, and here is the monitor. We have the little screen with a pretty long cable. I'll put on the screen here exactly how long this is. And then there's this, so you plug this in, and I'll show you how I'm going to mount this, how I've mounted this in the past before, but it comes with a dash mount. You can attach it to your dashboard or to the window. I don't really like those. I don't like having stuff up here, so I normally have mine down here. And again, I'll show you that in a second here, but let me turn on the car. You can see it turns on automatically when the car turns on, and that is my view. That's the view out the back. And the cool thing about this is that it can work with 2 cameras at the same time. You can switch between them. So this is the back one. There are a few buttons on the side here. If I press and hold down that one, That goes to the front camera that we just installed. And there's the fire ring, the fire pit, which, yep, is out there. Can't quite see it, but it's just in front of the car there. It's really cool. I really like having, first of all, just the one backup camera, just this one. But then having the second is really great. Again, for pulling into campsites, when just trying to avoid trees, boulders, fire pits, whatever. It's nice to have both the front and back to make sure I'm not hitting anything. And so again, with this thing you have some mounting options, and again, I didn't like the suction cup that came with it. It didn't stick very well to the top of the dashboard of the Yukon. It stuck better to the glass, but I just didn't want anything up there. And so there are a couple other things you can do. First is get something like this. This is a vent-mounted phone holder. I got this from Ross for like $4 or $5. This is Armor All brand. I didn't know Armor All made phone holders, but I guess they do. So you can see how it works here. A phone can just fit right there. And then this clamps on, if you can focus here. This clamps on to the vent for air conditioning or heating. And so you stick this to the vent, and then this thing will actually fit in this phone holder. And so you can clip this to your vent. And this particular one has different angles that it can go at. So if you wanted it off to the side a little bit of the vent, that could work. It's not super secure. You could probably get other ones that have deeper parts here to fit the thicker monitor better. It still does work though. I have driven with it. Maybe if you drive like hundreds and hundreds of miles of dirt roads, it would eventually pop out. But I mean, it's pretty solid. I would be fine using this as my primary method, even if it does come out occasionally. But while this is something that you could do, this is not what I do. Let me show you what I do. I use this thing. This is a phone mount, a magnetic phone mount for a cup holder. So you stick this in your cup holder like that, and then you twist the base to adjust it so that the bottom expands, which is hard to do one-handed. And then my phone case has this metal plate attached to the back, so I can stick it there and it'll hold it there. But the monitor doesn't have metal on the back. I tried sticking a metal plate to it. It didn't stick very well to the plastic here. And so I used these really skinny zip ties instead to go through these holes here and around this part. And I took it apart to make this video, but I'll do it again and I'll show you the finished product here. Okay, there it is. It's kind of a mess. I haven't cut off the excess ends of the zip ties yet because I wanted to show you kind of what I did. And it might be easier to see this way. I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, this is just how I did it. And then here it is with all the excess cleaned up, snipped off. Little ball head there can still move so the screen can still be positioned a little bit. The downside to this approach, of course, is that it does eat up one of your cup holders. It may or may not be worth it for you to do it this way, but it's worked well for me. So you just put the base in, twist this thing until it gets tight, like that. And you plug in this part. And again, this does eat up your 12-volt socket, but there are plenty of ways to get extra ones of those. And it does have a USB port on the back, which is convenient. So this goes in there. And then with the rest of this, you can either have it dangle off to the side, or what I did before is I used another kind of Velcro zip tie sort of thing to attach it, to keep it attached to the back here. I didn't bring that with me when I came out today, but it's doable. You don't need to have all of this just hanging out. But for now, that is what I'm gonna do. And so with this installed here now, let's again turn on the car. You can see the screen turns on, and there's our view out the back. So this does, as you can tell, have these lines here, which are kind of helpful. You can adjust the width of them, by the way. You can have them be wider or more narrow. In this car, it's not especially useful, and I'll show you why in a second, but that is an option. And then, so after a set amount of time, the screen will go off. I think I have it set for 45 seconds. You can have it set to 45, 60, or 90. There it is. So it went off. You can see that it's still on. It has the red lights there. If you're driving around and you want this to turn back on, there is a button right there on that thing. So let me press that. And it turns the screen back on. Takes a few seconds to get the image back. Pretty neat. And so that brings us to the pros and cons, the things I like, the things I don't like, and just my overall thoughts about these particular backup cameras. Overall, they're awesome. It's a really great image coming out of here. One thing to keep in mind with a backup camera system like this is whether or not the 12-volt sockets in your car turn off when you turn the car off, or they stay on when you turn the car off. It's more convenient if they go off when you turn the car off. So in all of our Toyotas, the RAV4, the Land Cruiser, and the Highlander, these sockets turn off when you turn off the car, which is nice, because then the screen turns off. Then when you turn the car back on, it turns the screen back on, which wakes up the cameras, which turns on the backup camera. And so, you know, when you turn the car on, that's when you're most likely to start backing out. That's when it's most helpful to have a backup camera. And so that's just convenient. With the Yukon, the sockets stayed on when the car was off. And that was a little bit annoying. That was a little bit cumbersome, because I would have to manually unplug the backup camera monitor, and sometimes I would forget to do it, and I was afraid of running down the battery. You know, if you kept that plugged in and left the car sitting for a few days, that would probably run down the battery. And so if you do have a car like that, you might want to look into a backup camera system that's more hardwired into the car, like built into the stereo of the car. It is annoying to have to plug and unplug and plug back in and unplug again manually if your car is like that. And I mentioned and I showed the lines that were on the monitor there. They're not great for this car because the license plate isn't centered. If the license plate were centered, then, you know, the lines would be centered and it would be accurate based on where I'm going. With the license plate off to the side, not so much. And the lines don't curve. So on nice backup cameras that are usually built into the car, that come with the car, if I'm out here and if I want to back up like this, as I'm turning the wheel, the lines on the screen will curve to show the route that the car will take as I back up. This camera does not do that. I can understand that that would be very difficult to do. I don't know if many or any third-party cameras can do that, but that is a nice thing to have. Like my mom's cars have that, and it's a great feature. And so even with all that said about the lines, they're still useful because after using it a lot, I know, okay, the lines show that the car will be over here, but really I know from experience that it'll be over here. So they're still a useful point of reference, but they're not especially accurate. You kind of have to calibrate your own use of the lines to get good use out of them. I really like having the two cameras. I know that's kind of a luxury. It isn't necessary, but it's pretty great. I'm not gonna lie, I really like having the two cameras. I'm actually considering putting these on the Land Cruiser because, again, it's a big car. This isn't an especially big car, but even on the RAV4, it's really useful to have backup cameras. It's really useful to have a front camera. I like it, and I kind of don't want to give it up. But the one on the Land Cruiser, it's fine. It works well enough most of the time for my purposes. But I know, having used these now, that it could be better. And so at some point in the future, I might get some more of these to add to the Land Cruiser. Overall, it's a great backup camera. I would have bought these ones myself if they had not sent them to me. I figured I'd save myself a couple $100s, a few $100s, and ask. And if they were willing to give them to me, great. If not, I was going to buy them anyway. So take my opinion for what it's worth, but they really are really good backup cameras. Go ahead and check the reviews of this for yourself on Amazon. It has almost 1,000 reviews, and they're mostly positive. And I hope you guys found this helpful. I'll put a link to this down below if you want to check it out. But if nothing else, I hope this video was informative. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Be sure to check out Adventure Know-How, my new site, where you can gain access to a map of all of my free campsites, plus monthly bonus videos that you won't find anywhere else. Learn more at adventureknowhow.com. And for links to everything else SUV RVing related, visit suvrving.com. Links to these sites and more will be in the video description.